Well, thank you, Dennis, for the invitation to come here, talk to you, have the chance to meet people that I have met. I used to say like 5 years ago when I should meet the case. Like Bob Bushbacher, Bob Walker, Cynthia, and also to meet my new friends, Simone, you, Dennis, my college fellow, Patricia. So I feel like I am at home. Up until now that I have to start it, I get a little nervous. So it has been a good morning speaking to some of you from who sits where I believe is sort of the closest place to heaven. You guys, you have the chance to think, you have the chance to write, analyze, project. Oh, this is good. So, well, thanks for having me here at least for a few days. And what I'll be telling you now is what we have been doing as the Nature with a lot of other partners in order to, let's say, push or transform the way that we think and practice infrastructure development in the Amazon so that we can dream of a better future for the forest, for its future, for the planet, and on. The title, I have to say it, I borrowed that for a project that we have together with other 30 or so NGOs. I may not go into that, and sorry for this, maybe sort of a false, but there's something in it. So let's see. So how do I move this? Down. Well, arrow to down is not going. To the right is not going. It never goes to the right. Let's try left. No. Up. Okay. So how's it? Page down. Thank you. So I don't have to say much about the Amazon here in the university, but to set to set the scenario, I think that the data that I actually had the chance to know, and that was pretty impressive to me, is that the Amazon stores the amount of carbon that equals to 10 years of carbon emissions in our days. 10 years of what the globe, the US, China, and everyone is doing. 10 years of it is stored in the Amazon. That's the importance of that piece of forest. We can think about biodiversity, we can think about 30 million people, we can think about indigenous people, but that was a piece of, that was news to me, and I think it's strong, and it's iconic. And we have been doing some conservation, with good progress in the region. 44% of it, Pan-Amazons, not talking only about Brazil, 44% in protected areas and indigenous territories. Sounds like good progress, even though some of them some systems underrepresented. Any river that is protected by a protected area, pieces of them as a consequence of a territorial area, the terrestrial area. So we haven't been doing good with our fresh water. We do have a lot of paper parks. They're created in the map. Some of them work, some does not. We do have cases and cases of indigenous lands and protected areas where deforestation is still going on. Deforestation, illegal mining, illegal logging, as the protected area was not a real case. So that's what the acronym will mean. So you know better than I do. Literature on this is just wonderful and scary. Protected area, degazetment, degradation, and should be destruction or something. It's impressive. We have a lot of social conflicts. We have murder and conflicts related to the Amazon. This is serious. At the same time, we do have a commodities boom that goes from iron to soybean, oil. We do have a 250 billion infrastructure gap. And that's actually, this is the number for Latin America. But we do have good commitments from the national governments on climate change, like Mercy, International Labour Organization. So we're sort of moving, but not necessarily already there. We have been, in terms of conservation strategies, as I said, doing good in protected areas and indigenous territories. The threats to the forest, we have been addressing more attention agriculture and deforestation control. And slowly we are understanding that infrastructure has a factor to influence and to be influenced by the agricultural commodities, and this might become a conservation strategy as well. Hopefully. That comes from a reference that is used by multilateral development based on the percentage of the GDP of each country that should be invested in infrastructure to provide good services for the economy and for the people. And I will mention that afterwards, but I can anticipate that. Have you been to the Amazon? Yeah? You have a clear feeling what an infrastructure gap is, don't you? Taking a car to drive anywhere further than 10 kilometers away from the land and house of the value, you know what it means by what we mean by talking about better roads. Or when we see, it's going to be outside the Amazon, but the soybean that is produced in Mato Grosso, it must travel 1,500 kilometers all the way to the ports in São Paulo and Rio. That's a problem of infrastructure.
Would that include urban infrastructure?
No, it does not.
Okay.
It talks about energy, mining, oil, logistics in general, from airports to roads, railways, and waterways. We are here. The figure is not good. I designed that myself. Sorry for this. Maybe Patricia will give me a help next time. But that's the extent of the threat. I mean, basically, roads would explain more than 90% of deforestation in the Amazon. Deforestation occurring along roads. We do have 15% of the basin under oil or gas concessions. That means that whenever they want to explore it, eventually you will lose the forest on top of it. Not to mention indigenous rights in protected areas. More than 20% of the basin is already prescribed to mining industries or mining investors. We do have, much better than I do, almost 200 dams blocking the rivers in the Amazon, and 250 almost for the future. And for us to have a visual sense of it, this is the famous arc of deforestation. I took my the liberty to extend it to the Andean parts, and that pretty much goes along the roads. And those are the borders of the Amazon being slowly cut down to for cattle, soy, and etc. Under current infrastructure plans, Brazil includes BR 319, which is the Porto Velho, Manaus, and that links to the Manaus Boa Vista already existed roads, and this would just open a second part of deforestation. So we have been seeing this, and we might have to face the situation where the forest gets split. That's for you to have a sense of the threat. But as we talked a while ago, there is a need for infrastructure. Actually, globally, this is a report. I do recommend this report. Powerful. The executive summary is something that you guys will love. It's precise, well written, compelling. The sustainable infrastructure imperative that came from the new climate, the Global Commission on the Economy and Climate. It's a group of international experts that are coordinated by a group of 17 nations. That includes Colombia, that includes, if I'm not mistaken, US, India, China, a lot of minor state nations. They put together experts to address climate change. And when should this, I mean, where is the solution? How can we identify a solution path for the challenges of climate change? And those guys, they realize that it is under the agenda of infrastructure development. And those guys, they go even further. They say that it is infrastructure, the only way for the planet to, retake economic growth, to deliver on the sustainable development goals, and to cope with the climate change needs. And why are they saying that? Because of the transformative power of infrastructure, number one. Number two, because they identify that $90 trillion are needed for the global infrastructure gap, to use again the loose expression in this case, half of it to the southern hemisphere. So those guys are saying that this is the time and probably the only opportunity we have to tackle these three problems: the economic crisis, climate change, and better conditions for the people. Doing a better job in designing and implementing infrastructure. When? Oh God, now, if we are talking about reducing, yes, it's almost yesterday. If we are talking about reducing climate carbon emissions and having a change in the curve by 2050, as the Paris Agreement claims, we should take the decision now. Because the decision of the road that's built, that may be built now in the Amazon, will be actually implemented in the next 10 years. If we decide to do a railway for preventing deforestation, oh my God, that might take 15 to 20 years. So decisions are to be made now. Well, as economists, can you translate that to us, Bob? They say that that's the time, low interest rates, available pools of finance. I'm just kidding. But, well, basically the point is that all businessmen are talking about those, and that's the assumption of many reports. The world has no crisis in liquidity. There is a lot of money available, a lot. And this money is available in the hands of investors and banks. And the challenge right now is to identify the projects where those guys will put their money in. And one condition for this is, of course, that there is a payback. Second, eventually delivering on SDGs, eventually reducing climate change risks, eventually having that happening in the Amazon, along with indigenous people, along with rivers, along with biodiversity. I'll come back to that. It's another important point on the need for infrastructure in the region. This is a project that was recently released by Instituto Socioambiental. Many of you should know, ISA. Those guys, they powered 16 indigenous tribes within the Xingu territory with solar panels. The indigenous need the energy. I mean, they need the energy to process the food, to process the seeds that they will sell, to live, to have a refrigerator, whatever. They're doing solar, better than Brazil in general, but this is the kind of needed infrastructure for the region. So then maybe I should call your attention to the infrastructure in the Amazon and the infrastructure for the Amazon. I know I got the concept a little bit challenged by Bob Walker this morning, which I like it. The whole point is, so far, infrastructure in the Amazon has been providing services for the national economies. The oil industry in Ecuador, it's providing economic resources for the Ecuadorian government, not necessarily to the Amazonian people. The roads in the Amazon are helping to take the oil, the soy produced in the Cerrado area, in the central area of Brazil, to export. So it's not actually necessarily serving the Amazon. And we think that this is an opportunity for us to bring together in a concept of coexistence this model where the Amazon will serve just like something to be overcome, for a bridge to pass over, and a social environmental model where the forest and the Amazon people has a role to play. And the bright addition that we have received from Bob Walker is that actually a model for the Amazon may also bring in, we like it, a heavy industrialization. We do have the meat being processed in the Amazon. And I mean, structuring one of the best meat factories of the world. As you know, it's Brazilian, based in the Amazon, JBS. We do have the soybean with the first plants to be processed in the Amazon. Mining industry, they are doing the first stages of processing minerals in the Amazon. So, oh my God, industrialization is there. And I think that we blocked our eyes not to see it. But Bob Walker said, yes, and open your eyes, and that's the future of the Amazon. And the question for us is how much we can balance or allow for coexistence of the two models. An industrialization model and a model that preserves the forest, its value. That's the challenge ahead of us. Talk to anyone about those and they'll say, oh yes, of course. Anyone, even the guy from Cargill, JBS, IDB, the world, they say, oh yes, let's do it. The question is how, as always. First, breaking that question in two pieces, the first and maybe the most important one is, what are the important points? And what are they really serving? What's the reason for them? And two, how to make them happen properly. And that's where some ideas come from. Oh, that's for me the best way to present the challenge of infrastructure development. The OVNI is a project. I mean, we don't know if it actually exists, if they should exist or not, if we should take a ride, or if we should embrace it. And that's the territory that eventually they don't know where they are landing, presuming that they don't come here freely, okay? So, the project, we should question the existence of it. Why do we need a road linking Manaus to Porto Velho? The soybean is going down river by the water, by waterways, barges. Less expensive way to do it. Products, TVs, motorcycles, radios from Zona Franca de Manaus. We had some, Patricia? They come from cabotage. That means they go down river and go by the ocean to get to São Paulo and Rio. There is no best way to do that. Why do we need a road? Is that to take people from Manaus to Porto Velho? Is that national integration? 1,000 kilometers to Porto Velho, 3,000 kilometers to São Paulo, is that integration? So what's the reason for that? That's the first thing we have to ask. What are the conservation criteria? What are other projects? There might be others trying to land, other OVNIs trying to land the same territories, and we have to make sure they will not have cumulative impacts that may eventually destroy the area. When you get to the territory, especially in the Amazon, but not only in the Amazon, we do have an accumulated history of social demand. Schools, hospitals, security, name it. Those people in the Amazon, sustainable development goals, millennium development goals, human development indexes in the Amazon are usually much lower than the country average in any of the countries that has an Amazon peace. So the 8 countries, in all of them, the average of human development indexes in the Amazon are much lower than in the average country situation. So they have a demand. They have been having their rights unrespected and they do face the risk of the environmental impact. So how can we connect these two? Is there a solution? You get to the literature, and the biodiversity guys, probably you guys know that, they come out with a simple model, almost obvious. It's called the Mitigation Hierarchy. The Mitigation Hierarchy basically claims for planning to avoid impact. So this is the expected impact of a project. You do a good planning, you avoid a part of it. So you reduce the level of impact. You do good implementation. Oops, you take those out as your impact because you're doing good in implementing it. And the remaining impact, you compensate. That's zero, that's no net loss of biodiversity. It's actually moving. That's an agenda that BIPOC, the Business and Biodiversity Group, 75 global corporations have endorsed that. They're doing it. I mean, they have nice projects to show for biodiversity. Good enough. So how can we think about services, environmental services? How can we think about rights? How can we think about what we envision as a development path for the Amazon? I added some complexity to the model. Sorry. So, same mitigation hierarchy adapted to planning, implementation, and compensation. Adding to this, the work on the ground, action on the ground. People like Simone going to Xingu and talking to people about how they can maximize benefits from the investment that is coming to that area. People like, how big are you again? Sorry. People like Simone getting there. Glad to meet you, Dave. Neiva. Neiva, brasileira. People like Neiva understanding that in the Amazon, indigenous territories, they can have their own management plans. It's prescribed by policy, and if they could have it, they would be better positioned to address their interaction with a huge infrastructure project landing by their sides. We do have policies for controlling deforestation, requiring every single rural property to be with their land, the CAR, the Cadastro Ambiental Rural, the Land Rural Registry System, where we can track individual landowner on how they are dealing with the forest. Let's put it in place, and that would add the resilience of that territory. Let's get people organized with a local government system so that they can monitor the way that that infrastructure project is being implemented. All of this, it takes time. Some of it has been tried right at the end of the project. The project is already happening. We have seen some conflicts and etc. And then people go there. Oh, let's have a territorial development plan. That's what we did for the Xingu around Belo. I mean, in a hurry, almost absolutely late. So the whole point is, let's try to work with the territory since the beginning. And then you may ask, okay, that's the idea, before your question. So we do have a need and an opportunity to prepare those territories. And basically, why? I'm not sure if you noticed in my previous slide with the sustainable infrastructure imperative, that there is a saying right here that says that we have endemic delays in infrastructure projects, and that responds to 20 to 50% of project costs. That's the business reason for us to reduce conflicts. I mean, we are losing, investors are losing money because they're not preparing the territory, because they are landing as obvious. So people are scared away. And let's take some action. We do a lot of studies. We do the impact assessment study, an independent review of that study, a secondary review of that study, a thematic review of that study, studies. Good. We do have to have confidence in what we're doing. In paper. Best science possible. let's act. Let's get to the field and talk to the people and understand who's the mayor. What's that mayor looking at? Are there governing councils in that place? Are there NGOs working in there? Are there other corporations working in there? Let's try to define what's a possible local governance structure. Let's try to identify, again, best science possible or best guess possible. What are the priority conservation actions? What are the other needs of that area? So do they have a municipal sewage plan? Sometimes they do. They have the plan, they don't have the money. Sometimes they don't even have the plan, so let's understand it before. So that means action and not just assessments. And let's do it as soon as possible because those things takes time. And let's make it part of the project cost. Actually, real world, the engineering component of any infrastructure project and the finance structure of it, it's a service. And it can be bought in the market. And it can be reimbursed when that project is sold into an auction or a public bid as a little line in the project cost. Why not? Preparing territories could not become another cost line in the total cost of the project. I can tell. I would not expect that to raise the cost too much. If we can compare, oops, you're not supposed to be here. I'll just skip to this and I'll go back. If we compare to this, and that speaks to somebody's point here. This is a fake copy. I mean, this is a real news from 2013 in Belo, Monte, almost 3 years ago. November 27. What a coincidence. Almost the right day. The manager of Norte Energia, the responsible for building Belo Monte, declared that every single day that construction is stopped, they lose 12 million reais. You can put an exchange, or 350 million per month. So use 3.6 to get to dollar. So every month, Belo Monte gets stopped by problems in its design and implementation. It cost $100 million. At this point, they had already stopped it for a month. So 3 years ago, they had wasted 100 million. So what if we could think about a project where that part of that, can that be 10%? I would say yes, 10% of that $100 million, $10 million could be invested in preparing the territory for the dam to come. I would say that we would not have a single day being stopped because conflicts would not be there. So that's the rationale. How can we make that happen? So we would move to the 2 slides back by putting and that's our audacious proposition. What if NGOs in the academy, together with our current donors, Moore Foundation, MacArthur, IDB, World Bank, what if we could set an early action fund to do exactly this, support upstream planning so that we can make sure that the project that we are talking about has a reason for existing, has clear benefits that we can use to prepare the territory. Strengthen the indigenous, organize them, get the indigenous territorial plans ready, get some actions to control deforestation, and help to design the project, including other actions in the long term that would be needed for that specific, either a dam, a road, a railroad, a port, a railway, to be well fitted into the territory. The good news, as I said, is that basically that cost is easily reimbursable to that same fund. How we would do that? selecting a manager, having an oversight committee. You guys are here, the green box. We do need the experts to be saying, this is a go project, this is a no-go project. Those are for that specific geography, those are the requirements. In this case, indigenous people in isolation. Oh no, in this project, no problem of isolation of indigenous, we don't have that, it's for sure. So you guys, you have the knowledge to do that. So together with NGOs, together with indigenous peoples, for you guys, experts, sitting here and taking that responsibility along.
Or highlighting the trade-offs.
Or highlighting the trade-offs. Woo! Beneficiaries, governments, corporations. How? Eventually on a non-reimbursable basis. Oh yes, we pay for that. I don't want to get that. I just want this to happen because I don't want to lose the forest, I don't want to kill the indigenous people, whatever. Contingent recovery is the technical term for that mechanism where you put that as a project cost, and it gets reimbursed when anyone in the market values the project for the right to build it, or in a reimbursable basis. Well, we're here with a very good group of experts in the Amazon. With, let's say, let's be small, again, $10 million. We might have a company that comes to us and say, would you, is it land or borrow? I never know. I have the money and you want it. You? Land? Would you lend me $1 million for me to do my proper consultation with the indigenous people? We should be able to do that. Take them with a good project. And that guy will eventually get a nice label. Of course, if he's doing it right. If they are willing to do it right, they will come to us. Why not? Small scale, 10 million, demonstrating that it is possible, environmentally, socially, and financially, to make that investment early on in the process. So, yeah. Another two concepts that I would like to share with you. We are not just two men. Unfortunately, we are just few people. That would say that the bad side of coming here and meeting you, I mean, you guys here that we know already. So we're not few people. We're just the same getting on. But we're basically the same. We're not growing. I mean, in number, maybe growing weight. So instead of doing that by region, by country, by pieces of the Amazon, what about thinking about something Amazon-wide? And what about thinking that in a multi-sectoral approach? We did an exercise with 40 or so people representing 37 NGOs, and we listed the priority geographies where we do, by our experiences, we see biggest threat from infrastructure project. So it's basically around Peru, Colombia, Ecuador. I will not read it all. But the most important point is that we didn't ask the people, what are the sectors that are threatening this territory? Look at this. Transportation, basically in all of them. Not in Xingu is an exception. Hydropower, in a lot of them. Oil and gas, mining. Oh my God. So if anyone takes that dimension, so I work with mining in the Madeira, we may use the opportunity, or we can win. If we can succeed with the mining sector, but then our beautiful project will get crossed by a road, or it's damaged by a big hydropower project. This is actually what has been happening. In the Tapajós area of Brazil, there is a huge, necessary, but not sufficient concern and warning about the energy plans from Brazil. They want to dam the Tapajós from A to Z. And people are really, I mean, crying, shouting, and making all possible reactions for Brazil to review its energy plans, to save the Tapajós, and etc. The biggest dam that was projected to that river was canceled by the government. Whew, what a relief. Oh boy, that is a big gold mining project is still going on. There is a railway project planned for that area. There is a road to be paved. So we didn't save the capital by preventing the dam to be built. So let's think about the multi-sector approach. And let's think about the Panorama. Many projects across the base are designed to basically go across or cross the basin sometimes. There are plans, official plans for energy integrations, government failures. They're similar in every single country. But good news, there are some countries that are doing some good stuff. I can highlight here that in Peru, SENACE, which is the licensing agency for Peru, they are trying to do what they call it avanzadas sociales. So the team from SENACE go to the field to talk to the people. You know that, so they're trying to prepare the territory. So that's exactly the concept that we are discussing here. What if we can have the same with Ibama in Brazil, with ANA in Colombia? They understanding that there is a first movement, even before terms of reference for environmental impact assessment studies are designed. Or, oh, there is a project coming. I go to the field. I go to talk to the people. I go to do the first assessment so that I'm public servant. I am prepared to deal with that. Climate change, biodiversity, human rights, all under similar national and international agendas, and I think that the world would benefit for the renewal of GRULAC, the group of Latin American countries and the way they position themselves in international conferences. Investors are just the same. It's the same IDB, the same World Bank, and oh my God, the same China. So we can take a Amazon wide approach, and we could leverage the capacity of civil society organizations by basically adding them up. I do think, and I'm here, and I do this job because I do believe there is hope. And I see hope in those 4 pillars. There are pieces of the mitigation hierarchy embedded in country building. And we are slowly making progress. You know, in the conservation world, progress is like this. You go and you go back and you go a little bit more and you go back, but we are moving. We do have global commitments and they do take a very special attention to the Amazon. That's a great opportunity. And that speaks to climate change, biodiversity, sustainable development goals, human rights, and etc. Are they complete? No. Are they fully implemented in country? No. But this is a first step here. Investors, they do have their standards and safeguards. We have to make sure we are properly using them. We do have other funds available to, if we want to make that transformation. The GEF bilateral agreements. I would dare to say money is not a problem in the art for conservation. The problem is more how we are capable of dealing with that, accessing, influencing. Governments peacefully accept, national governments, except for Ecuador, all of them are signatories of Open Governance Treaty, partnership, they call it. So we committed to full transparency in official data. We know how that can be transformed into data that's not usable, understandable, compatible, but again, it's a step. Some banks, this tiny little one here from Brazil, it doesn't follow any transparency rule, even though Brazil does. But Brazil being a signatory, we can push BNDES to do it. And this whole corruption crisis in Brazil, which I don't believe is only applicable for Brazil, because it's the same players and the same business as in the US or Peru, in Colombia, it may help us to take a one step further improving the quality of the decisions and the transparency of the money flows and etc. So I do believe that those are pillars for us to move ahead. And we have tried that recently, and Simone was part of that. We are trying to see if there was any convergence, potential alliance within civil society organizations, NGOs in the Amazon. And we did came with a document, a written document, where those organizations share a vision, 37 of them, with a common goal and principles to deal with infrastructure. And I think this is very, very positive. We do acknowledge that we have a large array of strategies, those that will block and tie themselves to the trees so that the bulldozer will not come in, to those that will, oh yes, Mr. Wenger, let's do it. So from the extremes, we all respect and understand that we complete each other, and we will do better if we keep working in a coordinated way. It's in paper, and I think that that's a big push. If there is one group that has been vocal in Brazil, or eventually here in the US, it's society. And what we are doing is actually calling the universities, you guys, experts, come with us, and let's do some action. Let's try to transform the way that business is done for infrastructure in the Amazon. If we know where we are going or where we want to go, well, let's do that together. And we are clear that we don't do that. I mean, NGOs won't do it by themselves. We do need partnerships. And probably the closest, the most trustable partner on this is academia. So be ready for us. Thank you.